Hello everyone and welcome to this video where we will delve into the functions and some main commands of the SWEETHOME 3D interior design program. To get started, let's choose how to access the program. We can use the online version of SWEETHOME 3D by accessing the SWEETHOME 3D website, clicking on Online, then on Test SWEETHOME 3D JS Online, and finally on Empty Home. If you want to use the online version of the program, I remind you to register on the site to be able to save your project. To access the program in offline mode, simply click on the application installed on your computer. For any further doubt or information regarding registration on the site, installation of the program, and access to SWEETHOME 3D, I advise you to consult lesson 00 of this course published on the channel. Personally, I will access the online version of the program. As already mentioned during the previous video, the interface is made up of four main spaces. The upper space, characterized by this grid, will be our main workspace, fundamental for the creation of our projects. The light gray lower box allows us to see a 3D preview of our work in real time, and I will demonstrate it soon. On the left, we have the repertoire of objects that we can insert into our environments, where we find furnishing elements for the bathroom, for the kitchen, for the living room, for the bedroom, for the office, for the exterior, and for the hobby room. Food, plants, and clothing are also included in the furnishing elements. Also in this section of the program, we find doors and windows, lights, staircases, and even characters and vehicles. It is possible to choose furnishing objects more specifically from the drop-down menu, selecting the environments or elements we need. The toolbar located at the top will be essential for creating buildings. By pointing the cursor and leaving it still on any icon, it is possible to understand exactly the type of instrument with which we are going to interact. Starting from the left, the first two commands allows us to establish the view. By clicking on the first, we get a view from top point. By clicking on the second, we establish a view from the human observation point. A little man will appear on the grid, of which we can modify the eyes elevation, the body angle, and the head angle. Proceeding on the toolbar, we find these two arrows. The left arrow allows us to undo, the right arrow to redo the actions. Next, we have the editing tools, such as delete selection, cut, copy, and paste. The isolated icon indicating a chair allows us to add the furniture selected from the catalog of our home. The next 7 tools are really important for the success of the project. By clicking on the first icon, we can select the objecting plan. By clicking on the second, we will be able to pan in plan. The following commands are construction tools. In order, we can use the following tools to create walls, create rooms, create polylines, create dimensions, and add text. These other 4 commands allows us to activate and deactivate magnetism, which is an automatic snapping to the grid. Lock and unlock the base elements, flip the selected objects horizontally or flip them vertically. The next 4 commands are related to text settings. They allow us to increase or decrease the size of the text and alternate the bold or italic style of the selected text. These 2 tools allows us to move closer or further away orthogonally from the work surface. By clicking on the light bulb icon, we can get more information on the version of SWEETHOME 3D. Finally, by clicking on the last icon at the top right, we access the Preferences panel, where it is possible to manage the settings regarding the language, units of measurements, and currency. By checking the boxes, we can enable other functions of the program, such as 3D and navigation arrows, selection and editing in the 3D view, aerial view centered on selection, select visitor in plan at 3D move, magnetism, and grid. From the drop-down menu, we can establish the default font of the text that we will add to our work. We can decide how to display the furniture icons in plan, whether as per the catalog or from the top view. It is possible to establish the room rendering in plan by choosing between monochromatic or color and texture. Make a choice regarding the pattern of the wall in plan, their thickness and height, and finally choose the thickness of the floor. We now have a general but complete overview of the interface, tools and commands of the software, but obviously each tool will then be explored specifically in the subsequent dedicated lessons. In fact, this lesson will focus on one of the basic but essential tools for the creation of a building, the walls. To begin, we select the Create Walls command on the toolbar. Now, pointing the cursor on the grid, click with the left mouse button to establish the starting point of our wall. By dragging the mouse, we see that three main pieces of information appear: length, angle, and thickness. It is possible to establish an angle from 0 to 180 or from 0 to minus 180 degrees. With the active magnetism function, it is only possible to obtain angles that are multiples of 15. By deactivating the function, we can instead establish the angle of each degree. The length and thickness of the wall are indicated in centimeters, a unit of measurement provided by default by the system, which can be modified by clicking on the Preferences icon. To determine the final point of the wall, we do a double click with the left mouse button. In another case, by making a simple click, we establish the end of the wall created, but also the beginning of another. In this way, it is possible to create a closed or open environment continuously. To finish a wall and start another wall, we press the left mouse button once, and when closing, we press twice. To familiarize ourselves with the tool, let's try to build different types of walls. We build a space 5 meters long and 3 meters wide, closed by a perpendicular walls. We select the Create Walls command, click on the grid and drag the mouse up to a distance of 300 centimeters. Click again, change direction by establishing an angle of 90 degrees. Drag the mouse until we reach a length of 500 centimeters. Click and we repeat the same process for the other two walls, remembering to click twice to close. The double-click function can also be performed with a single click and then pressing the Escape key on the keyboard. Once a perimeter has been established, it is possible to create walls inside it, always using the appropriate tool. We can modify an already created wall by selecting the Select Object in Plane tool. With this tool, it is possible to select the walls individually to modify the length and the angle by clicking on the ends of the construction. When we select a wall, we can make it curved by interacting with the symbol located centrally by clicking with the left button and dragging the mouse to establish the radius of curvature. We can also move the wall selected in this way on the plan. If we have two connected walls and we only move one, the second will adapt accordingly. We can select and modify multiple walls at the same time by selecting with a click and holding down the Shift key. To select everything, hold down the left mouse button with the cursor pointed on the free workspace and drag it until the light blue rectangle has included all the elements. In case we make a mistake in selecting wall, we just need to hold down the Shift key and click on the wall to deselect it. To delete a wall, simply use the Selection tool. Click on the wall to be removed and click the Delete button on the keyboard. We can do also the same action by selecting the wall by clicking with the right mouse button and clicking on Delete Selection, or by selecting and clicking the dedicated command present in the toolbar. We can see that the space below the grid shows exactly a preview of the 3D model of what we have built in the plan. The generated 3D model changes simultaneously with the changes made on the work plan. To move around the 3D model, hold down the left button and move the mouse. We can move away and closer from the 3D model with the trackpad by moving two fingers together that simultaneously slide across it. To carry out the same actions, we can use the 3D navigation arrows, which can be made visible by clicking on the preference icon and ticking the setting box. With these up and down arrows, we can zoom in and zoom out. With the right and left arrows, we can rotate our point of view horizontally, and with the small internal arrows, we can rotate the observation point vertically. By left-clicking on the 3D preview, additional system settings will appear. We can select an aerial view, a virtual visit, and store a point of view. By clicking on Modify 3D View, we can change the preview settings such as the color of the ground and the sky, or use a particular texture for both. In the 3D rendering section, we can instead adjust the light brightness and the transparency of the wall with the appropriate sliders. In this lesson, we explored the program interface and saw in detail how the Create Walls tool works. The next lesson will be dedicated to the use of the other tools proposed by the program. So we conclude this lesson here. Thanks for watching the video. See you next time. If you want to stay updated on new guides, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us, subscribe to the channel as a supporter.